Hi, welcome back. We were on question 16, so let's do it. Just like 15, it says the area is a certain number in units squared. So we know that area is equal to pi r squared. So we know that this formula has to equal the area we are given. So now we have to get r by himself on one side. So to find circumference, we need to know what the radius is. So if I divide pi on both sides, I get the radius squared is equal to 2,545 over pi. Now, I don't want to know, though, what radius squared is. I want to know what the radius is. So taking that into account, we get this number. And we're also told to use 3.14 as a way to approximate pi. Now we can go back and use the circumference formula, 2 pi r. So the circumference is 2 times 3.14 times all this yuckiness right there. But that's just a number. Okay. So let's find out what that yucky number is. 254.5, divide by 3.14, and then take the square root. So it looks like this yucky number, I'm going to keep it in my calculator, but I will write down what it is. And then I just need to make sure to multiply by 3.14 and the number 2. So the circumference. All right, and then we're going to round to the nearest tenth. So the 3 would suggest to keep the 5 a 5, and that would be in miles. Terrific. Now let's look at the next section. So it says find the area of each, use 3.14 as pi, round to the nearest tenth, and there's the area formula. Okay. So 17. If the radius is this, what would be the area? So we're just going to plug that in right there. And they told us to use 3.14, not the pi button on my calculator. Okay, so just carefully type this in. Now, I just found the area. So if the radius is in kilometers, the area would be in kilometers squared because it is a two-dimensional description. The area. Okay, two-dimensional. 18. Okay. Now, what if the radius was 4.9 feet? Using that, I get that answer. So if that's the tens place, rounding the 0 up, it would be to a 1 centimeters squared. Ran out of room there almost, but the 4 would keep the 9 and 9, and we want it in miles squared. They changed that. So we remember that if diameter is 22, the radius would then be 11. And so this is going to be the same as last time. The area is pi r squared. When the radius is 11 units, we're going to get 3.14 times 11 times 11. So I should get the same answer, but in centimeters squared. So when they tell me that the diameter is 22, it's the same thing as saying the radius is 11. It's the same. They're talking about the same shape that we observed in the universe. 22, diameter is 14.2. So that would mean the radius would have to be 7.1 centimeters. So the area would be pi 7.1 squared. So pi times 7.1 times 7.1. Using 3.14 for our pi, and rounding to the nearest tenth, we get 158.3 centimeters squared. Good. So if the diameter is 17.4 miles, or no, that just 1 m would be meters. So I am going to take my calculator out. So that would be a radius of 8.7 meters. So that would be pi times 8.7 squared. And we're going to use 3.14 for our pi. So that 6 here would tell me to round that up to a 7 meters squared. So if the diameter is 20 kilometers, our radius would have to be 10 kilometers. So area is pi r squared. Don't really need a calculator for this one, but you can do it anyway. Cool. I don't need to round to the nearest tenth, so only round if necessary. Okay, that's pretty cool. 25. Ooh, they made it different. The circumference is 13.2 miles. Okay, so we know the circumference is equal to 2 pi r. So here's our formula here. Now we need to know what r is so we can plug it into our formula there. So this is going to be pretty cool. So we need to get r by himself on one side. So to do that, I need to divide by 2 pi because r is being multiplied by 2 pi, so the inverse of that would be to divide by 2 pi on both sides. And see how that's really handy? Now r is by himself here on the right, and this side is just 13.2 divided by 2 pi. Cool. Now we can go ahead and move forward pi r squared. So the area is equal to pi times my radius, which is 13.2 over 2 pi, squared. So times that same thing by itself twice. Wow, that's a big old number. We also know that anytime we see pi in this problem, they'd like us to just use 3.14. But I could actually cancel here and make this a little simpler. Pi divided by pi goes away. Okay, so that's going to go away. And you might want to rewrite this. The area would be equal to 13.2 times 13.2 divided by 2 times 2 times pi. So that'd be 4 pi. And again, instead of pi, we can write 3.14. So there's a lot to multiply and divide, but we can do it just one step at a time. So 13.2 times 13.2, divide by 4, and then also divide by 3.14. Okay, so 1387. The 7 tells us to round the 8 up to a 9. And our units were in miles, so the area would be in miles squared. Cool. That one was totally different. Let's do the same type of question here in 26. The circumference is equal to 75.4 feet. So using this same concept, circumference is equal to 2 pi r. So if I divide by 2 pi on both sides, radius happens to equal the circumference divided by 2 pi. So if I know the circumference is 75.4 and I divide by 2 pi, that's going to be my radius. So to find my area, I just need to plug in this yucky radius and then multiply it by itself twice. 75.4 over 2 pi, 75.4. Oh,